running smoother. So we are being live streamed. For those of you that are joining us on YouTube, welcome. This is the February 2nd meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Albany. We have two items on our public hearing agenda tonight. Our first one is project 00450. The application is for area variances 97, 98, and 99. The property address is 276 Central Avenue. Applicant is North American Islamic Trust. The proposal is demolition and reconstruction of the existing front area of building, extending a prayer hall and adding water RPZ room to the first floor, adding mechanical room to the second floor, and adding an elevator to the existing staircase. The applicant is requesting 3 area variances. We have staff here to walk us through the application before we see a presentation from the applicants themselves.
Thanks, Martin. So the area variances that are being applied for are in relation to the form of the building. So let me just get to those. So the first one is in relation to the materials. So in the code, it states that all original building materials shall be maintained to the maximum extent practicable. The second of the 3 is for the window and door arrangements. It's a similar provision where the original window and door arrangements need to be preserved to the maximum extent practicable. And the third is for the roof shape, and that's the same thing, needs to be maintained to the maximum extent practicable. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of the presentation. We have the applicant here on the call. So let me just enable them to speak.
Wonderful.
So we have Ahmed Syed here on the call, and you should be able to speak now. And then just let me know when you want me to change slides.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm not sure whether our architect Reza is online. I'm unable to see it. If he is also one of the speakers.
It doesn't look like it.
Okay, that's fine. If he's not, maybe he's having trouble. There was a trouble signing in to this form. Only the people with Zoom accounts are able to sign into this webinar. But apart from that.
Pardon me for interrupting. Sam, is it possible that he's calling in from the 425 number?
Oh, yeah.
We do have one person calling. I'm sorry?
He's based in Syracuse.
Okay, so not a 518 area code then?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully he'll be able to join us, and if he needs to submit some commentary on this.
Well, what was his name again, so that I
Reza.
can see?
His name is Reza. It's right there on the screen.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's not listed right now, so I'll keep an eye out.
Sure. So I can start. I mean, just to give you a background, this is a Islamic center, which is the only Islamic center in the capital district, not in the capital district, but in Albany, city of Albany, which serves a large growing community, which has been increasing at an exponential pace at this time. And what we are doing is to reconstruct the second phase or the front part of the building, which we want to demolish and have a reconstruction to be safe and better area for the community. So basically what we are trying to do is to continue from the phase 1 we had completed and it's in use, and we want to continue with what we did in the phase 1, extend it all the way to the front of the building, have it meet the up-to-date standards of 2022, and have it elevator so that people can go up instead of the stairs, and make the building safer, and have better sprinklers system, better smoke detectors, and basically get it up to 2022 standards. So what the proposal is to demolish the front part. Currently, the building is in bad state. It's not being used regularly, and we want to make sure that the building is in a good condition for that to be used. It's a background on the Masjid Salaam. This was opened in 2000, serving the community in Albany. So we had a renovation or rebuilding done for the backside, which faces the Bradford Street. So this building is from Central Avenue all the way to the Bradford Street. We have reconstructed the back portion of this 276 Central Avenue building. We have constructed into and put a new roof on it and made it 2 floors. We can have pictures. We can go along and show the pictures of what we have constructed in the end. So these are some of the services we do, community services. We have interfaith services. We have kids having tuitions in the masjid, as well as we also raised funds for the Bradford Street fire victims. We were able to raise and distribute over 80,000, which was published in the news article this is referencing here. So apart from just being a religious organization, we are involved in the community and provide a lot of services to the community, not just to the Muslim faith, but also for everybody who lives around the downtown area. So this.
Sorry to interrupt. The architect is now on the call and has speaking privileges.
Okay, Rita, do you have anything to add to the introduction?
No, basically what I heard, it was all good. You said it as I would have. Basically, the mosque, they provide services for local people, neighborhood, community, and in addition to that, the old building was pretty much structurally unstable. The floors were all over the place and everything that was not proper. The foundation was not proper. So what happened that we did the drawing, and which is actually 2/3 of the space. It was the back, which was phase 1, which is done. It's people use it. The community uses it. And now we are here for the front portion, and mainly the issue is with respect to the front elevation, the fenestration for the front. The design is basically based on the concept, the portal of entry, as like in churches, basically there's a like Gothic church. I'm talking about more traditional bell tower, and this, what we have, what we propose is basically very standard for a portal for a mosque. And also what we did, we tried to work with the planning department. We added windows. We changed the split face block to brick, to basically red brick, to matching the church across the street. That kind of, it's going to be that color of red brick. The tan and the tan brick, if you go the other way, you'll see some churches that they have some tan stone and brick. So we try to accommodate the neighborhood as far as the materials used. So at least we could, and then around the windows and entry door, we also providing precast concrete, which would look like stone, just like the church. I believe they have sandstone at the church, but right now the precast concrete longevity is much better. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. The minarets are also just, minarets represent like a bell tower in a church. That's basically, that's what that is. And then generally they have two minarets, which that's what we incorporated in order to give it some. And the minarets are fabricated. They're fiberglass. The color is right now, we were thinking of a more sky color, so it doesn't jump at you, so it just fades away when you look up. But it's basically a gel coat. It's resin with fiberglass, and it's prefabricated. You just put it, it comes in one piece and then they put it on. Sometimes it comes in two pieces, the top dome part and the base, and they just basically gets connected to the base that we have provided.
So if you move on to the next slide, yeah, these are some of the buildings. This is right across the street, and this is within the same block. We try to change our elevation to match to the existing buildings in that block. So from the variances request point of view, we are trying to repurpose any materials that can be salvaged, and we are working with the Albany Historical Society to use the cornices. We'll be donating windows, doors to Habitat Restore. And similarly, alternatives were considered. The existing structure is not feasible to be used by the community. We want to make sure that there was fire in the second floor where the timbers were burnt, a little bit charred, and we want to make sure that the building we are reconstructing is safe and sound for the community to use. So if you move on to the next slides. So we're talking about the area substantiality of the variance request. The proposed front elevation is compatible and in harmony with the surrounding buildings for religious use and the community use. The front elevation also enhances the existing surrounding buildings. Also, we'll be able to provide better community services for the community around the Masjid Salaam. So the other variance is for adverse impact, physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. So the proposed reconstruction of Masjid Salaam front portion will not have any impact considering this is already like a storefront kind of building. It will not have any impact to the drainage of the Central Avenue. This will be all scaffolded and built so that there will be no dust and other kind of impact for the surrounding communities. Raza, do you have anything to add?
No, basically we have provided a barrier at the front before they do any demolition. And I think they have to get the permit from the city of Albany to work in the right of the way to put that barricade, which is going to be going up easily like almost 15, 16 feet high, to prevent any debris to come in the right of the way, specifically a sidewalk. That's another thing, that probably that barricade would come into the sidewalk about 2 feet, 3 feet, because there's foundation below that we have to excavate and pour concrete, new concrete, and remove the deteriorated old foundation. That's
and the building next to it, 280 Central Avenue, is owned by Masjid Salaam, and also the building the other side, that is 272 Central Avenue. They have already signed a letter of support for this reconstruction. And we have submitted over 40 signatures, the letter of support in a very short time. So the community around Masjid Salaam strongly supports this reconstruction too. So we can move on to the next slide. So this is the reconstruction of the front of the Masjid Salaam is not self-created. The existing structure was not safe and adequate for the intended use of what we are trying to do and expand our services in Masjid Salaam. I mean, the foundation is crumbling. There has been a fire a long time back. We want to make sure that it is safe for public use. Anything to add, brother?
But basically, the floor, and when you walk on the floor, there is not even that. That indicates that there is some wood joist or beam or deflecting more than what it is. But mainly, when the wood gets 70, 80 years old, they lose their resin and then they lose their elasticity. So the floors on the first and second floor, they're not even. On the second floor, there's like 1, 2, 3 levels on that second floor. And I don't know how that had happened, that they kept building steps to go into the next. So it's not even accessible for a wheelchair access, for accessibility is not good. We are providing a new elevator for people that they can access the second floor, or even the first floor is fully accessible.
Yep, the next slide, please. So this is just some of the pictures from phase 1, which was completed. So you can see we have modernized the building, got up to the current codes, having a safe environment, having proper exits, proper space for exits, and made everything better with better ventilation, better heating, better lighting. So these are some of the photos of the completion of the first phase, and we want to continue with the second phase to complete the construction of this building. And this is the elevation that is being proposed, and our architect already has spoken about this. So we can move to the next slide. So this is our floor plan, proposed floor plan for the first floor. Now we are having double door entrance to come in, fire exits, proper fire exits. We're going to be having a lobby area to come in so that we are not be energy efficient. And the back side of this building, you can see this has already been completed. So next slide, please. And this is the proposed floor plan for the second floor. Again, the back side of this building is already completed. We are just requesting for completion of the second phase. So this is the existing floor plan of the first floor. As you can see, there's only very small entrance to come into the building, and it's not working efficiently, and it's a step up, so it's tough for wheelchair access and things like that. So we have to build a ramp to get things to have wheelchair access. Next slide, please. So this is again the existing second floor structure. As you can see, there are multiple rooms, and we have provided addendums and attachments of the current status of this roof, which has been crumbling. Again, some of the structural timbers are with charred, and they are in not in a good shape. Anything to add, brother?
Well, basically, you can see the 2 change level when it says corridor. If you go to number 1, column line number 1, go to the left, On the upper part of the drawings, there's a corridor. You can see two change of level. That's what I was referring to. And also the way you exit to going down, it's very narrow. It's like, I believe it's, from best of my recollection, it's 36-inch wide. That's all it is. And it's not, accessibility is not good. There's no way the wheelchair can utilize this space right now. And as was mentioned, that a lot of the, it's not, the main issue is not as much fire as it is the structure itself is basically too old, and it's not, I wouldn't say not safe, but it's not proper. Let's put it that way. The floors are uneven. Even when you get on the roof, you can see that the roof is not even, and the roof in this portion is flat, and we are keeping it flat as it is. The back, we put slope roof, the phase 1, but phase 2, we are, most of it, we are keeping it flat. So it doesn't fight when you go to the front on the elevation.
Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so that's about it. Any last words, Rasa?
No, that's pretty much, you explained everything well.
Well, I thank you for your time this evening presenting your plan. Quite an ambitious project, so kudos on moving forward on it. I want to go back to our slide listing the variance criteria, because I want to make sure that we are narrowing our focus to the areas where we're requesting the variances, which relate to the facade of the building. So thank you. Before I ask questions, I want to give my other board members an opportunity to jump in ahead of me in queue. Do any of my other board members have questions for our applicants?
How old is your current roof?
How, the front, the phase 2 or phase 1?
Both.
Phase 1 is brand new. It's basically a slope-proof gable roof, and it's shingled with ice and water shield. We make sure that we went a little bit beyond just putting felts on. The front is rubber. Portion of it is rubber. Portion of it is half lap. And it's not in good shape. If you go on the second floor, there's 3 places that is leaking. You can see on the ceiling, they put suspended ceiling to hide the old chipboard ceiling, and you can see some leakage due to discoloration of the ceiling tile.
And that was phase 1?
No, phase 1 was basically we put a gable roof on top of it, a slope roof, and we put shingles.
Phase 1 is 2 years old.
Is the front. The phase 2 is the front, and then some of it is rubber, some of it is the half lap, and it's not in good shape. There's leakage. At least I've seen 3 places that it leaks on the second floor. So the roof is not in good shape. Basically, some of it is, you can tell they did it probably 4 or 5 years ago. They replaced the roof with the rubber, but because the roof is not even, the sloping is not even, so some places water puddles, and then that's where it's leaking.
So the phase 1 was 2 years ago, so that is kind of brand new roof. The phase 2, which we are trying to demolish and reconstruct, we actually don't know the actual age of the roof. So there has been multiple repairs done over the years.
And you mentioned the back of the building on Bradford Street. Could you just detail a little bit of the work that you've done on the back of the building?
So the back of the building, we have demolished and put a new roof on it and made it into a open structure. If you can go back all the way to the end, we can walk you through the floor plans. Basically, it was an old warehouse kind of building where it was not much of use for the way our community works. If you go to the next slide, please, the next one. So it was a mishmash of different things. You can see a narrow pathway on the top of the diagram and a narrow pathway at the bottom of the diagram, and the space in between was kind of unusable space. So we have made it into one nice larger space. If you can go back one slide, please, or two slides. One more, yeah. So now we have extended the walkway, which is in the bottom of the diagram, made it wider so that people can come in and out, made it safer so that in case of emergency, the exits are wide. There are multiple exits in the building. So this is what we have done for the first floor. For the second floor, similarly, we have done the same thing in the second floor too. So second floor is a huge hall, and the first floor is a hall and some bathrooms and a walkway or an exit all the way back, which is about 6 feet wide or maybe more. I'm not 100% sure of exact. 8 feet wide. Yeah. So that's what we have done. Improvements to the existing structure in phase 1. We just want to continue all the way to the Central Avenue.
Thank you.
Do we have other board members with questions?
Yeah, Martin, I have a couple. So I'm trying to tell from just get kind of a sense of the neighborhood and surrounding buildings and what the proposed new structure would look like. So I just want to confirm currently 276, your house of worship is two stories, correct?
Correct.
And the new and once the facade is rebuilt and the changes are made, it'll still be 2 floors.
Yes.
And then so it looks like, and I could be saying the wrong address, it looks like 278 Central, the neighboring building is 3 stories. And so with the added structures on top of the roof, will that bring your building to about 3 stories? Or will that be similar in height to the neighboring buildings?
It would be a little bit lower than the adjacent if you stand in front to the right building, which the mosque owns that building as well. But it would be lower than that.
Okay.
It would be more. It would be almost like pretty much like the adjacent building to the left, or the one that they own. Also, there's another place that they own that they utilize for education. But it's about 31 feet something. If you go to the elevation, it shows. Now, I'm talking about the building itself, not the minarets. But as you see that there is about maybe 31, 32 feet, if I recall correctly. And of course, the roof is lower than the top of the wall, but it would be pretty much 2-story, but it kind of tried to line up as much as possible to the adjacent building, other than to the one to the right, it was pretty tall. Now, if we would have gone that high, then we had to put another story, and we were just trying to keep it with two levels, 2-story.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. And since a couple of the variances we are considering have to do with the reuse of materials, I know you provided quite an extensive plan of how you will donate or reuse. Was there any consideration about reusing these and then reusing those materials in the new building other than donating them?
To be honest, the new building, like the windows, is not even going to be compatible with what we have. And most of these windows that they have right now on the first floor is a storefront and like mostly
single pane,
clear aluminum. And but to be honest, not really, because most of the stuff that, like the wood we were talking about, if they chip the wood so they can use it as like a gardening things like that, or the windows and things like that, if a different building can be utilized. But I don't think it would be prudent to say that we can use some of it in this phase 2 for the new construction.
Yeah, and they're single pane windows. we want to make sure that the building you're reconstructing is energy efficient too.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add some questions to that? So you said the height of the roof will be a little lower than the building next door, but then with the minarets, those will be higher, like the top of the minarets will be higher than the roof next door. Like, what is the total height with the minarets, just for clarity?
I have a hard time looking at this and looking, I should have opened my own scale, but
Yes,
I'm not able to read the scan here, but I think minarets were, I think 8-10 feet, I cannot recall, but it won't project beyond the top of the building on the right side.
okay. But then it's still lower, right? Like there are other buildings, like the churches and everything, that are like either similar height or taller.
Yeah,
No,
the
it's
churches
lower
in the
than
community are
church
much taller.
across the street, for sure. The bell tower, the church, that church is much higher than the bell tower for that church across the street is much higher than the top of the minaret. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Even the church itself is basically cathedral ceiling, and the tip of it is higher than the top of the flat portion of this building.
Okay.
So in the addendum, we did provide approximate heights of the adjacent buildings and similar buildings. So I just going through my document, what I submitted, just going through and trying to find out what was it exact feet. So if we have, we can send you an email with more detailed measurements.
Thank you. Yeah, it just sometimes it's hard to read some of the plans that you submitted, so that's why I wanted to make it very clear what the total height you're asking for is. So, I don't know. I guess. Sam, do you know what the total map plan shows the height will be?
One second.
All right. You zoom in.
So in document 375-407G addendum has the heights of the adjacent building, and let me give you the height of the proposed building in total.
Thank you.
And that's the top of the minaret, by the way. Top of the building, I think it's about 32 feet from what I recall correctly. It might be.
Yes, it is 32 feet. The building height is 32 feet and the minaret is 14 feet.
Okay.
So in total, it's 46 feet. The church across the street is about 76 feet.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. It's 60 feet.
Okay.
Adriana, I dropped the link to the PDF where you should be able to clearly look at all of the elevations and the heights in the chat.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And then I was looking at it. I have just another kind of random question, I guess. So like the photo we're looking at, I was looking at, in preparation for tonight's meeting, I was looking at the documents and I was looking at Google Map, and I noticed that there's a photo that was recently added to like Google for the mosque. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, that shows something very different than what we're looking at. And I don't know if you have any idea what I'm talking about, but I was just I saw that when I was preparing for the meeting, and I just wanted to ask if you knew what this was about.
So let me go to the.
And I don't know, like if I send a link, can I send a link to everyone? You have a link to it.
Sure.
It appeared there may have been a prior proposal for the project, perhaps.
Oh, you think that's what that is? Okay.
I'm just guessing. Maybe that's what it is.
I see something linked to their Facebook page. Of a
Oh,
redesign.
okay. So that's just an artistic visualization by one of our members.
Okay.
So that has nothing to do with what we are proposing. So it was a long time back.
Exercise.
Somebody, yeah.
Okay, great. I saw that on Google and I was like, oh, this is very different than what we're looking at.
Yeah, no, what you see right now, what they did, there was a fellow going to the school, to a university, and he wanted to do a project. And then he took this and then he added his own view. As you see, there's like almost 4 levels that we don't have 4 levels. Of course, maybe 2 levels with them. I'm just looking at the windows. But it was a project that he did for school. And of course, somehow, I don't know, somebody overimposed it on the existing building.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it's something that Google picks up from some places. So it's not what we are trying to do here. It's just a artistic drawing by one of the students who was going to the RPI here.
Totally understood. Thank you for explaining.
I don't think they have the money to do this. No, it's very elaborate.
I'll ask a couple of questions, and perhaps my fellow board members could jump in if they have additional questions. Could we go back to not the criteria, but the 3 variances being sought that relate to the facade? Because I want to try to put blinders on and talk about the facade itself and some of the characteristics. So when we're going to building characteristics, I noticed that the current building is a clapboard wood building with aluminum and glass windows, that it was built for a storefront. And the modifications being made appear to be made for the extent of religious purposes of the facility. Are there certain elements of the facade of the building that are necessitated by its use as a religious and community service provider, as opposed to materials that may indicate it's being used in a different capacity? Are there religious elements that are being incorporated into the facade that are a necessity of the reconstruction?
Yes, the minarets are pretty common in the mosque. Domes, minarets are pretty common in the mosque. And most places that I know, based on my research, the portal, the entry, is pretty much what we proposed. It's not a new idea that we came up with, basically based on research that we did, I did per se. And so that's what that portal is usually, that's how it is with, but usually the main entry of most of the mosque, the portal, the entry is much larger than what we have. But we tried to make the entry 2-story high, but then again, there was a point that I couldn't keep going higher and higher and higher. So we stopped at 32 feet to be compatible, at least height-wise, with the building in that row when you drive on that side of the street. So that was the main thing. Like I said, minaret, the arches, instead of the Gothic arches, those are mainly like more like I would say Indian type arches, as opposed to Middle Eastern. Is more that type of a curvature. It has more of a belly, I guess I would say. The domes or the minarets, the windows also is pretty much what is common. What I did, and the only thing that I did, I put precast concrete around the windows, which is going to be like a stone pretty much. It's a very fine finish, looks like stone. And then to be compatible with the churches in that area, because if you look at all the churches, most of the windows, they have sandstone or some kind of stone framing the windows.
So if I'm hearing you right, some of the design considerations were being made to be compatible with properties around the neighborhood. And the minarets are really a religious function of the building that are necessary to identify it as a place of worship.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's like when you look at a church, when you see a bell tower, you know it's a church.
All right. Thank you.
Of course, some of the modern ones are tough to tell, but most common churches that you look at, when you see the bell tower, you know that's a church. It's not a different function, different use.
And so to go back to the maximum extent feasible, when you talked about some of the structural elements of the building being in a failure or critical state, would there be any practical or financial, I guess, insurmountable hurdle for incorporating those materials back into the building that may necessitate a complete reconstruction?
Well, presently, the New York State Building Code, there's certain things that we have to go by. And the only thing that I'm thinking that we could really utilize, and not all of them, the timber, the flooring, if you go into the basement, the floor for the first floor, they're all timber. And of course, there's pilasters, there's some of the foundations, they're crumbling. They made them with brick piers, and then they came and put concrete on top of it. And some of the timbers that they're 8x8, 12x8, so they're good sized timber. And there's some of them beginning to split. Chalking, I call it, like it basically you can see. So reusing it is pretty different. I would kind of be hesitant to use those because of the loads that we have to calculate the floors. Like right now, most probably that floor was not calculated for 100 pounds, which is like a assembly space, and 20 pound, 15 pound dead load. So I have 120 pounds live load. When you have an assembly like a mosque, like a church, a place of worship, and those structures, the timbers would not, I was not able to make them work with the load that the New York State Building Code requires, that you have to design your buildings for assembly space.
Okay, so those materials you're talking about wouldn't be seen in the facade anyway. They would need to be modified, but they wouldn't be visible anyway.
Correct. But like I said, and then also the front of the building is actually brick, but it's painted. They painted it way back. I don't know when, but they painted the brick. So we're kind of going back with the same concept. Okay, they had brick. First, we had some member of the communities. They were asking for a split face block, and then finally we changed it to brick. And my suggestion was that brick is more compatible with all the other buildings around that area. And then so we changed it to brick. And then the other thing that was to utilize red brick to match the church, so it doesn't stand all alone by itself. So at least it resembles the material used in that area around left, right, across the street, and so forth.
Okay. One more question, then I'll back to my colleagues if they have any additional. When we're talking about fenestration, we're talking about original window and door arrangements. This building seems to have been modified multiple times into various types of structures, most recently a storefront. Is it the applicant's contention that by preserving the building as a storefront, it doesn't meet the needs of the current use of the structure?
Correct. Basically, if you look at the storefront that you see, it was added. The original windows were back. They brought it out, I think, at least 3-4 feet. If you look at the adjacent building, you see the other one is set back. so they were gaining more space. And then of course, those storefronts, as you see, they're painted white so they can get some privacy when they pray. Basically utilizing, so there's like a lot of the stuff on the first floor, that storefront, they were remodeled, I guess, maybe 10, 20 years ago. So none of that was going to be useful to us in terms of showing that this is a mosque. That resembles very much like a storefront for a retail store for some other use than a religious building.
Thank you very much. And we have on record some of the design modifications or work with staff to incorporate windows or design elements. Just hoping that that's been documented by staff for the record. So I don't have any additional questions. Do any of my other board members have any questions?
I don't have a question so much as just a comment. You know, I'm really using the Google Street View benefit here, but yeah, you can definitely tell those oriel windows have really been sort of slapped on the face of the original building. So,
and you know your windows.
I do.
It's great to have somebody in the preservation field here.
Love a good oriel window.
I appreciate the guidance on these materials. So with that, do we have any members of the public who are here to speak for or against the application or add any commentary?
If you would like to speak, we didn't have anybody sign up, but if you would like to speak, please raise your hand. Okay, looks like we've got two. Just give me 1 second. And
Well, Sam gets ready. Just a reminder, members of the public have, just to keep things moving along and to make sure that we're hearing substantive comments. We have a 2-minute limit on public comments, but we encourage, if you have comments beyond that 2 minutes, please submit them by writing so we can add them to the record. We definitely appreciate a good public record and comments on projects. So with that, I'll leave it over to Sam, who's being our DJ this evening.
okay, so the first person that we have is Shadab Ahmad. So just give me 1 second. You should be good to speak. Let me just. All right. So you should be good to speak.
Hi, this is Shadab. I'm from 98 Bradford and I support this project. This is community lead, and I just wanted to say that the Masjid Salaam doing a lot of things for the community, and we support this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for providing comment. We have one more speaker.
We have one more, Muhammad Barak, and you should be able to speak now.
Good evening. My name is Muhammad Barak. I own both building on both sides of the mosque, which is building 272, 274, and also 282, which is on the other side of the mosque. And I also run those businesses since 90s. So before the mosque, this block was like a dead block. It was too much crime behind in the front, and the property had no value. But since the mosque came, the property prices went up, and the crime is gone, and a lot of improvement in the area. And I also own a couple of properties on Bradford Street. So I'm in support of this project. They're really doing a very good job for the community. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. At this point in time, the applicant typically rebuts any public comment, although with 2 comments in your favor, it would be unusual to rebut them. But if there's anything additional the applicant would like to submit for the record, it's an opportunity to do that.
From our side, we are ready with we are shovel ready with this project at this time. We are just waiting on the approval of the area variances from the planning board. We did a fundraiser, and from a logistics point of view, we are hoping that the planning board and the zoning board will approve this request.
Great. I appreciate your time this evening and everybody for commenting. Thank you for walking us through your application. I do want to mention there are a couple of regulatory requirements that prevent us from taking action tonight, but we will leave the case open and be accepting public comment for the record to be amended. And at such time, we have the regulatory authority to move forward. We'll be doing so expeditiously. So I appreciate your time this evening and thank you for joining us.
Yep. Thank you all for your time, and we appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, so our next portion of the public hearing is in relation to druthers. There are 3 area variances being sought for this particular project. We have had prior workshop and public hearing opportunities for this project. So unless there are any objections, I don't think there's a necessity to go through the entire project again, but we do have the applicant here if they would like to provide any additional commentary, or if there have been additional items that need to be brought to the board's attention. I do want to provide them with that opportunity, considering it is a public hearing, and then we can open it up for additional public comment on this particular project.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to appear once again before the board. I have had, I think this is the 3rd time for this presentation, so, or it's been heard 3 times. So I think I am set from a fact standpoint. I think the presentation's been thorough. We've heard certainly quite a bit of rebuttal to mine, and I've answered. So I am okay resting where I am. And if at the end of this, if there's public comment against, if I could be given the opportunity just to respond, that would be great.
Always love brevity. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from our board members in relation to the project? Anything that we might not have been able to bring up before? Do we have anyone signed up for public comment for this particular project?
If anyone would like to speak, please raise your hand. We have one, John Ducharme. So 1 second. And you should be all good to speak.
Okay, great. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mr. Ducharme. Thank you.
Thank you. I again am here on behalf of Surpass Chemical. We continue to oppose this project, and given the fact that Mr. Martel hasn't added anything in addition, I also will not add anything in addition other than the letter that I submitted on January 31st. And I just want to thank the board for giving us the opportunity to repeatedly speak and submit written comments on the project. So with that, I will leave it to you.
Thank you for joining us. We did receive your memo, and it is in the archives for this particular project. So thank you for speaking. If we could go to, so one of the necessary requirements for the board is to review and make a determination as to the State Environmental Quality Review Act in relation to determination of environmental significance. The board has taken a hard look at this particular project and reviewed the elements of the deck proposal and made significant consideration as to any environmental significance or impacts of the project. And with that, do we have any wishes of board members?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
Sorry, Could I just talk about the history for a little bit, not necessarily on the slide, but just if that's okay with the chair?
I think that would be fine since a motion hasn't really been made yet. I think that's okay in consideration. Yes.
Thank you. So I'm Martha, I'm the counsel to the board. And so just the history with seeker for this project is that the board previously determined that this project number 00424, which includes the 3 area variance applications, as the chair mentioned, it's an unlisted action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And the board has reviewed and accepted the completed short environmental assessment form, part 1, which was completed by the applicant, as well as has reviewed parts 2 and 3 of the environmental assessment form, which were prepared by board staff and myself. The board completed a coordinated review of the action and considered all comments received from both involved and interested agencies. The involved agency for this project was the Albany Common Council. They did not provide any comments, and the interested agency was the Albany County Planning Board. And the Albany County Planning Board did provide comments. And as Chair Daly has mentioned, the board duly considered the whole action and the criteria for determining environmental significance under Title VI, Part 617.7 C1 of the New York Codes, Rules, and Regulations. And again, as Chair Daly has mentioned, the board identified the relevant areas of environmental concern, took a hard look and thoroughly analyzed the relevant concerns, and has made a reasoned elaboration on the basis for its determination on whether the environmental concerns identified and analyzed will or will not be significant. And that is all I will say for now. And I'm sorry, Serena, I cut you off.
I feel like I said the same in less words, but I appreciate the addition for the record. So thank you for providing that.
Thank you.
So you were going to make a motion, I believe.
Yes. I move to adopt the determination of non-significance resolution and issue and adopt a negative declaration for the unlisted action known as 1053 Broadway Proposed Deck and Public Right-of-Way, or Project 00424. The board notes that the board's written determination of environmental non-significance of this unlisted action is issued and adopted for the reasons stated in the board's negative declaration, which is publicly available on the board's website. The board also notes that the negative declaration is incorporated with the adoption of tonight's resolution, if it's adopted.
Okay. Thank you, Serena. Do we have a second for the motion?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. We'll do all in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Do we
Aye.
have any negatives? Any abstentions? So motion carries. Thank you very much. I believe unless there's any other business staff wants to bring to our attention, that concludes the board's business for this evening. Sam, do you have anything else for us this evening?
No other business.
Okay, wonderful. When is our next meeting, Sam, for the record? We'll be meeting, I'm putting you on the spot here.
It will be on the 23rd.
23rd, great. So hope to see everybody on the 23rd. This case will be left open. We're not making a decision about this case right now, but we did move through the seeker process, but the public comment period is still open on it. Do we have a motion to adjourn the February 2nd meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening, and we will see you later in the month.
Thank you.
Bye, bye.
Everyone.
Bye.